Before we go upstairs and before you go upstairs and have your class, I gotta ask you, man, what are you reading, man?
I'm reading the book When Money Dies.
That's too depressing, Dr. Warren.
No, it tells you what happened to in Germany in the 1920s after World War I when Hitler, before Hitler came to power, how money failed.
Okay, talk loud so we can hear you. So the bottom line is that you think that we're going to get rid of this dollar, it's going to be a new currency issued or what?
There's no question about it.
A new currency?
A new currency. That's the only way that they can reduce the debt and make it manageable, where people can have certain things, like for instance, health care and all that stuff.
Yeah, but you know, this election coming up, and I know it's a little crowded here. We may have to go upstairs a little bit quieter, but no matter who's the next president, Mitt Romney or Barack Obama, the economy is not going to improve.
No, there's no hope for it. I mean, there's no hope. What you need now is basically a new or reboot or reset of the whole economy. The debt structure is too great. The people are in too debt. It's impossible to be served and maintain any type of services in which people are used to here in America. It's just impossible.
See, the $16 billion debt is going to have to either be paid. $16 trillion debt either going to have to be repaid or just eliminated, but no matter what's going to happen, it's going to lower the standard of living.
Oh, it's definitely, that's one thing. The standard of living will be lowered. It's impossible in this globalization type economy with the debt we have that you have such a manner of cost of living. It's just impossible to maintain cost of living. Your standard of living will be impossible to maintain for the middle class, and I think the middle class will be totally wiped out in this whole rebooting of the economy.
But this whole middle class is a myth because we have actually third world neighborhoods and communities and homes in America. Third world.
You definitely already have third world. Basically, that's already here. There's no question about as a result of the jobs being moved, outsourced to China, Asia, and Mexico. What you have is a total deindustrialization of America. And that's the reason why you have people, you've got 50 million people on food stamps.
Right.
100 million people are basically
poor, near poor.
Poor or near poor.
And near poor, yeah.
And only 25% of the jobs in America have livable wages. So 75% of the jobs are substandard.
Well, wait, only 25% of the jobs have a livable wage.
Livable wage, that's $25,000, $30,000, $25 or $30 an hour, all the way up to your $200,000, $300,000.
And people got to understand, this Mitt Romney, is Barack Obama going to change the world? Mitt Romney is going to improve the economy because he's a businessman? People got to understand the standard of living has been going down and decline for the average American for 30, 40 years.
Right. Well, in the case of what you have, the average American makes $50,000, and his standard of living is actually no better off than it was going back to 1970, 1960. At least you had one thing. The woman was in the house and she wasn't working.
Right.
Now you got two people working, and some cases three working, two people working, maybe working 4 jobs, and they still can't make it. You're living in a house that's upside down, and you're having high cost of food, and you haven't seen anything as this thing rolls down. The Federal Reserve continues to print money, and what most people don't understand is that the debt that we need to finance the system, we can't even sell the debt. America cannot have their bonds and treasury bills accepted by the Chinese or foreigners because they say, listen, you too deep in debt.
Yeah, so I don't understand it. Why are we selling bonds? Why are we forcing the Chinese and other people around the globe to buy our debt? I don't get that.
Because we don't generate enough money from the taxes. The taxes are only $2.4 trillion. And you add up Social Security, Medicare, you're running a deficit. If you add those deficits in, like you should on general accepted accounting practices, the deficit wouldn't be 1.5 trillion, 1.6 trillion. What you're running is actually about $5 trillion deficit.
5 trillion.
5 trillion. And listen, Obama already done ran up $5.8 trillion. Do you understand that the people say, well, what the brother gonna do? He done ran up 5.8
Well, he almost had to, though.
Well, then that's true, but then if you had to, the problem is that your money, your dollar bill won't be worthless.
Right.
It'd be totally worth it. So if he goes another 4 years, we're talking about this guy's going up maybe $10 trillion. He'll be the worst president in the history of the world.
But if Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan become president or vice president, they're going to have austerity, massive austerity.
That still won't. They still won't be able to reduce the deficit to a manageable level.
So you're saying if we go deeper in debt or massive austerity, and that's just hard measures. Look up the word austerity, y'all.
Right. What that means is cutting most of the social programs.
Yeah.
And if they cut them all to the bone, you would still have $1 trillion deficit. Remember, in 2007 or 2004, we only had about it was under $1 trillion. Matter of fact, when Bush came in, we were running on $200 billion deficit. And when he started the wars and everything, and et cetera, now we're up to over $1.5 trillion every year we're running, and we are the largest debtor nation in the history of the world. And the only way that you'll be able to offset your savings and everything, you better have some silver or gold.
Silver and gold.
That's the only thing that's going to be able to hedge your savings. Because listen, your savings in the bank is only paying less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
Now, if you got $10,000 in the bank, $10,000 in the bank, you're not even making less than $100 a year. Get real.
And there's a lot of people who are homeless. And what I mean by homeless, they lost everything or almost everything. They moved in with family. So they're not technically homeless, but they home they used to have don't exist. They had to move out. So there's a lot of folks who are homeless, but they're living with family. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, that's because basically you have a deindustrialization of jobs. Listen, you have really less than 10% of the employment work in factories these days. If you go back, say 30 years or 20 years, it was more like 30 or 40%, good 30%. So a third. As a result, now those jobs have been shipped overseas. You're talking about millions of jobs, maybe 10, 15 million jobs, factory jobs that have been lost, which are low skilled, but it paid livable wages. These people were making what, $25,000, $30,000, $25 to $45 in General Motors.
With no college degree.
And with no college degree.
Right, no college.
They were working on their Siemens line or Ford, so they were able to pay for their home, put their children through school. Well, it's impossible to do that now. It's an impossibility to be paid any type of money under this current system that we have.
And say it's a perplexity
Obama,
because
nobody else can help us. It's impossible.
if you get a good college degree, we're not too far from the University of Chicago, down the street over here. If you get a good college degree from a good school, it's almost, you get a cost-benefit analysis, it may not pay off.
Oh, yeah, well,
For some people.
For a lot of people, it will. Let me say, listen, just put in Google where Harvard graduate law school. They graduated from Harvard Law School, $140,000 in debt. And listen, these are white people, and they can't hardly find no job, at least to be able to live comfortably and pay off the debt. So listen, you got people going to school for sociologists, being social workers.
Yeah.
That stuff gonna be all cut. You're wasting your time. If you don't have a skill or trade that you can use, nursing or some type of tech that you can basically use, you're wasting your time because you will not be able to pay off that debt.
Yeah, but listen, if I'm a young man, I don't want to go to college, even Kennedy King or Chicago State, and I say I'm not going to college, I'm going to sell some drugs to make some money. Is that a good path?
Well, listen.
The illegal path?
The chances are, one, getting shot, killed, or going to jail. So, I mean, the risk there is almost impossible. And on top of that, I mean, what you going to do with IRS and the money you're making? How you going to justify driving a Beamer, $80,000 Beamer, and you ain't got a job nowhere?
And tell these little girls that if you have a bunch of babies and you're single with a bunch of children, you're going to be poor.
Oh, listen, it's impossible for anybody that has a baby, is out in high school or anything, they through. You're going to be underclass or in poverty because the guy that you probably had the baby by, he probably does not have any skills whereby that he can even provide for himself, let alone you or yourself. You don't understand that the quality of living, the type of job that you're going to be working is at 7-Eleven, Walmart,
McDonald's, Walmart, the whole
those
nine.
type of $8, $9, $10 a job at the most.
At the most. Well, can we go upstairs and continue this conversation?
Oh, sure.
All right, let's go upstairs then. Dr. Warren, let's walk upstairs to Dr. Warren, man. Dr. Warren, the man.